Meet Mariana Brown, a brilliant 15-year-old who could solve chemistry problems in her sleep and had an unwavering passion for science. She lived in a humble neighborhood on the outskirts of Chicago and spent her evenings tinkering with elaborate experiments in her grandmother's kitchen. On a chilly morning, she was on her way to showcase her life-changing science project, one she believed could help thousands. Little did she know, one encounter with a harsh, narrow-minded officer would threaten to unravel everything she had worked for. But fate had a twist up its sleeve. Mariana was just days away from meeting the President of the United States. Mariana Brown gazed out of the bus window, eyes drinking in the city lights of Chicago. The early rays of sun were still creeping over the skyline, painting the clouds in pinkish hues. She carried with her a large, carefully wrapped box that housed her pride and joy, a science project she had spent months refining. Inside were glass tubes, a tangle of wires, and a small battery power pack. If executed correctly, her invention would demonstrate a new way to purify and recycle water, using low-cost materials, an idea that might bring life-saving solutions to underserved communities. Growing up in a neighborhood often overlooked by city officials, Mariana had witnessed how easily people fell through the cracks. She also noticed that children her age rarely received the encouragement they needed to chase their dreams, especially young girls who looked like her. She had lost count of how many times she was told science wasn't for people like us, but she refused to listen. Mariana's innate curiosity and ability to absorb information as if by osmosis earned her a spot at the upcoming citywide Science Expo in the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry. Renowned sponsors like the University of Chicago and the Smithsonian had partnered with the event, hoping to uncover the next bright minds in STEM. Before heading to the museum for her final run-through, Mariana wanted to visit one of her biggest supporters, her grandmother, Bernice Johnson, who lived in an old brownstone just a few blocks from the local police precinct. Grandmother Bernice had always been Mariana's guiding star. She was a retired nurse who had served in the Vietnam War, carried scars both physical and emotional, and was unwavering in her dedication to family and community. Her kitchen had turned into Mariana's makeshift laboratory over the years. Stacks of chemistry books towered atop the old wooden table. Wires for electronics snaked across the counter, and small potted plants used for experiments lined the windowsill. Despite the clutter, Bernice never complained. She believed wholeheartedly in Mariana's boundless potential. That morning, Mariana stepped off the bus, carefully balancing her project. She waved goodbye to the friendly driver she had known since she was a little girl and started her brisk walk through the neighborhood. Her mind buzzed with excitement for tomorrow's expo. She knew the schedule by heart: set up at 8 a.m., demonstration at 10 a.m., award announcements at 4 p.m. She tried not to dwell on the awards too much, but she couldn't help imagining the possibility of winning. The notion of representing her neighborhood, of standing on stage with a new invention that could genuinely help people, was exhilarating. And in just a few days, she would be part of a youth delegation invited to the White House for the annual White House Science Fair, where President Linda Marcus, yes, an actual president of the United States, would hear about her water purification system. Word had gotten out through her school counselor, Mr. Stevenson, who'd been so impressed by Mariana's experiments that he'd written a glowing recommendation. His letter ended up in the hands of the National Science Foundation, who subsequently invited her. Mariana had hardly believed it, but the official letter in her backpack was proof it was all real. Bernice opened the door and greeted Mariana with a warm hug. After a quick breakfast of scrambled eggs and toast, Mariana opened a large box on the kitchen table to show her grandmother the finishing touches. The device looked like a simple plastic container with multiple compartments, each housing a specialized filtering material, activated charcoal, layers of gravel and sand, and small biofilters that used beneficial bacteria to break down contaminants. She explained the new addition: a tiny magnet that created an electromagnetic field capable of drawing out metallic pollutants. The concept was borderline revolutionary. Mariana had tested it repeatedly with water samples from the local river and found consistent results. Bernice's eyes glowed with pride. She patted Mariana's cheek and said, "Baby, you're going to change lives with this." The older woman's praise was genuine. She had seen enough life to recognize brilliance when it landed right in front of her. Before Mariana left, Bernice wrapped her arms around her granddaughter and whispered, "Don't let anyone dim that bright mind of yours." Buoyed by her grandmother's words, Mariana left the brownstone and began her walk toward the Museum of Science and Industry. The morning chill had eased, replaced by a more comfortable warmth under the rising sun. The walk was about 20 minutes, but Mariana didn't mind. Each step filled her with anticipation for the day ahead. About 5 minutes into her journey, she spotted a parked police cruiser. Next to it stood Officer Kenneth Roswell. Known in the neighborhood for his brusque demeanor, he had a reputation among the local kids, quick to assume, slow to apologize. Mariana had never had a direct run-in with him, but she'd heard rumors how he would stop teenagers for looking suspicious, how he'd once threatened to arrest someone riding a bike on the wrong side of the road. She wasn't sure if those stories were exaggerated, but she tried her best to avoid him. Unfortunately, fate had a different plan. As Mariana crossed the street, hugging the bulky box in her arms, one of the plastic tubes inside the device jostled against the cardboard, making a subtle, clinking sound. Officer Roswell's attention was caught by the unusual shape and careful packaging. With a stern expression, he walked over and blocked her path. "What's in the box?" he asked, his voice edged with suspicion. Mariana's nerves immediately spiked. She pushed her shoulders back and replied calmly, "It's my science project, sir, for the expo at the Museum of Science and Industry." Roswell's face remained impassive as he gestured to the side of the street. "I need to see what's inside. Put it down and step back." She complied, setting the box gently on the pavement. It was a delicate piece of equipment. One jolt in the wrong place could set back months of progress. "Sir," she said quietly, trying to remain polite, "it's very fragile. I can open it carefully if you like." But Roswell was already on edge. Perhaps he believed it was a suspicious device. Perhaps he was simply having a bad morning. Whatever the reason, as Mariana reached to undo the tape, he snatched the box from her and rattled it. She gasped, pleading with him to be careful. "What are these wires?" "Looks dangerous," he muttered, ignoring her pleas. Desperate to prevent damage, Mariana tried explaining how each component worked and emphasized it was for water purification. "My name's Mariana Brown. I have ID in my bag, and a letter explaining I'm invited to a science fair." He cut her off. "Sure you are. Been hearing that a lot." His grip tightened on the box. "I'm not lying." Mariana's voice cracked. Her fear was less about personal harm and more about the device. She had spent over half a year perfecting it. All her data, her field tests, her carefully calibrated compartments, everything was in that box. Roswell's eyes narrowed. He spat words in a clipped tone. "Hands behind your back." He swung the box downward onto the trunk of his cruiser, ignoring her screams. Mariana dove forward to protect the contents, but it was too late. The glass tubes shattered. Wires snapped loose. The plastic compartments cracked, spilling gravel and water filter components all over the trunk. Tears blurred Mariana's vision as she reached for the remains. Sharp edges of broken glass cut her fingertips. Blood smeared across what was left of her invention. She tried to speak, but a sob choked her words. Officer Roswell looked at the mess as though it were a bag of contraband. "What were you planning to do with all this?" His tone was accusatory, as if she'd been caught carrying an explosive. It's my science project," Mariana managed to say between tears. Why would you do that?" Though Roswell took a step back, the damage was done. People passing by began to gather, some filming with their phones. A couple of them recognized Mariana as the girl who had been featured in the local newspaper for her upcoming science fair entry. Whispers ran through the crowd. "Isn't that Mariana Brown? And he just destroyed her invention." Amid the commotion, Mariana placed both hands gently over the remnants of her device. Raw despair welled up in her. She thought of her grandmother's unwavering pride, of the expo that was less than a day away, and of the letter from the White House, elegantly sealed, waiting in her backpack. Eventually, Roswell realized the gravity of the scene. The onlookers and their cell phones made him scowl. One woman in the crowd shouted, "You're going to regret this, officer." Another man said, "We know this girl, she's a genius." She was on her way to the expo. A flicker of doubt crossed Roswell's face. He tried to rationalize. She looked suspicious, but the crowd bristled. People took Roswell's badge number, stirring the air with accusations that he profiled a young black student. Police backup arrived within minutes, but by then, the video evidence was already circulating among the witnesses. A sympathetic officer named Hernandez approached Mariana, seeing her tears and bloodied hands. She helped Mariana to her feet, apologized profusely, and called for an ambulance to tend to the minor cuts. That afternoon, Mariana found herself in the hospital with shallow glass cuts on her palms. Bernice arrived, her eyes clouded with shock and anger. With her granddaughter's permission, Bernice had posted about the incident on social media, and it had gone viral. Meanwhile, the local news stations ran the story. Police officer destroys teen's science project. Some outlets even cited Mariana's upcoming meeting with President Linda Marcus, making the story even more sensational. Lying in the hospital bed, Mariana stared at the ceiling. She was still in shock, not just from the physical ordeal, but from the heartbreak of seeing her hard work destroyed so callously. She had spent months perfecting the device, only to watch it shatter in seconds. The weight of losing that project, along with the public humiliation, brought an ache deeper than any physical wound could. She considered her next steps. Should she try to rebuild? Was there even enough time? Could she still present at the expo and the White House event with a broken invention? Bernice leaned over and squeezed Mariana's hand. "Baby, we can fix this. I promise," she said. "And you've got half the city behind you now. We just need to see if we can salvage some parts of the device." Mariana's voice trembled. "I don't even know if I have enough pieces left. Tomorrow is the expo. There's no way I can rebuild everything in time. But sometimes, adversity unites a community." That evening, as Mariana was cleared to go home, she was met at the hospital entrance by several local students from her school's science club, teachers, and even volunteer engineers who had heard the news on social media. They stood there with boxes of new supplies, fresh glass tubes, microfiltration materials, circuit boards, and offered to help rebuild Mariana's invention overnight. The school's metal shop teacher had volunteered the workshop, which had an array of tools and resources at Mariana's disposal. The entire group pledged to stay up as long as it took. With tears in her eyes, Mariana could hardly believe the outpouring of support. "Thank you," she whispered, hugging them one by one. "I don't know how to repay you all." A teacher from her chemistry class responded, "Just keep being yourself. That's all the payment we need." The workshop was abuzz with activity from the moment they arrived. Students arranged themselves in an assembly line fashion. One group tested the electrical circuit for the magnet, while another sorted out the best filtration materials that could be put together quickly. Mariana supervised, guiding them with precise instructions. "I used a copper coil for the electromagnet, but I need to ensure the battery pack is stable," she explained to one of the volunteer engineers. The engineer nodded, rummaging through a kit for the right gauge of wire. Bernice kept them supplied with cups of hot chocolate, fruit, and cookies, ensuring they didn't burn out. Occasionally, one of the students would nod off for a moment, only to be nudged awake and return to the task at hand. Mariana's grandmother couldn't help but recall her own youth, how she had fought for respect in the military as a black nurse, and how times had changed, and in some ways, still hadn't. By 4 a.m., they had a functioning prototype slightly bulkier than Mariana's original design, but still adhering to her blueprint. The compartments were layered with fresh charcoal, sand, and carefully procured beneficial bacteria for the biofilters. The biggest unknown was whether the electromagnet portion would hold. Mariana wiped sweat from her brow as she explained, "We just need to run water through it and see if it purifies according to the data." They had a large plastic bin of dirty water, collected from the nearest drainage canal. With the whole group looking on, Mariana turned on the small battery pack. A faint hum resonated as the electromagnet activated. Slowly, the water trickled through each layer. On the other side, it dripped out relatively clear. A teacher hurriedly performed a quick chemical test, checking for certain metal contaminants. After a few anxious moments, he broke into a grin. "This is well within safe levels, Mariana. You did it." Cheering erupted, echoing through the workshop. Exhausted but euphoric, they all hugged. It wasn't the polished masterpiece Mariana had created before, but it worked. She named the device Aqua Sentry 2.0, symbolizing resilience and second chances. Though success seemed close, Mariana was still wary. "I just hope I can present this at the expo and it runs smoothly," she said, her voice laced with fatigue. The plan was to catch a quick nap, maybe an hour or two, then head to the museum by 7 a.m. to set up. Before anyone could even pack away the supplies, local news vans pulled up outside the workshop. Word had spread that Mariana was attempting to rebuild her invention, and the media was eager for a follow-up. They documented the triumphant moment of the group's collaboration, interviewing volunteers, teachers, and a bleary-eyed but determined Mariana. Of course, not all news coverage was sympathetic. A certain tabloid-like channel hinted at possible overreaction and tried to downplay the officer's role, but the majority of media outlets highlighted the injustice of the situation. They praised Mariana's resolve and the community's unity in adversity. Officer Kenneth Roswell woke up to a storm of phone notifications. He squinted at the screen and saw that he had been tagged in multiple social media posts, all outraged at his treatment of Mariana Brown. Overnight, the department had released a statement saying they would be investigating the officer's actions. Roswell's superiors called him in for an immediate meeting. Before noon, he was informed he was placed on administrative leave, pending an internal review. Roswell's temper flared, but also, for the first time, fear crept into his mind. He'd never been scrutinized like this before. He was used to his word being final, never truly being held accountable for his actions on the streets. But the world had changed. A single viral video could overturn careers in days. He spent the morning scouring news reports, reading comments filled with indignation about his behavior. One comment stuck out. "He messed with the wrong kid. She's meeting the president next week. This officer's got some hard karma coming." Roswell's heart pounded, anxiety surging. The President of the United States? That must be a joke, he thought. But more articles confirmed it. Mariana Brown had been invited to the White House Science Fair. He realized the magnitude of what he had done. He had not just harassed some random kid. He had destroyed the prized invention of a once-in-a-generation mind, someone who might shape the future of science. Now, the entire country, perhaps the world, would view him as a villain. His attempts to rationalize his behavior fell flat, even to himself. "I thought she posed a threat," he argued in his head, but that didn't stand up to the damning footage showing him carelessly smashing a delicate project while the crowd pleaded with him to stop. He stepped outside to avoid the phone calls from journalists. The chill in the air felt colder than it had any right to. Looking at the cloudy sky, he felt an unfamiliar dread sink into his bones. He wasn't sure how to handle this. He had spent years on the force, and never once did he imagine it would be a teenage girl and her science project that might end his career. Mariana showed up at the Museum of Science and Industry, running on pure adrenaline. The sprawling interior, with exhibits of massive planes and full-scale trains, always took her breath away. Tables had been set up for the citywide science expo in the main hall, each assigned to a competing student or team. Walking through the crowd, Mariana noticed the wide range of projects: solar-powered drones, advanced robotics, and even an innovative app that taught sign language. But no one garnered more attention than Mariana. Reporters flitted around her. Cameras were constantly rolling. She wore a bandage on her left palm, where the cuts had been deeper. Bernice stood by her side, offering moral support as Mariana carefully placed AquaSentry 2.0 on the table. She arranged the compartments, double-checking each wire and filter layer. For a moment, she paused, took a deep breath, and steadied her trembling hands. The expo judges, recognizable by their official badges, approached her station. Among them was Dr. Emily Reyes, a respected scientist from the University of Chicago, and Dr. Jamal Nichols, a renowned water treatment specialist from the Environmental Protection Agency. They both admired her concept, asked intricate questions about the bacterial cultures and how the electromagnetic function worked. Mariana answered with precision, citing her data and describing how she overcame the harrowing setback less than 24 hours earlier, as she demonstrated the process by pouring a grimy water sample into the top compartment. Onlookers gathered. The device hummed softly, filtering the water in stages. After a couple of minutes, clear water trickled out. Dr. Nichols took a sample for a quick on-site test. With a satisfied grin, he turned to Dr. Reyes and gave an approving nod. Mariana's demonstration sparked thunderous applause from the audience that had gathered. Parents, students, reporters, and museum-goers erupted in cheers. Her eyes shimmered with relief. It felt surreal less than 24 hours ago. She was cradling the shattered remains of her project in her arms. Now, she was presenting a successful build, thanks to the generosity and unity of her community. When the award announcements began, Mariana listened, with her heart pounding. The expo had multiple categories: Best Environmental Science Project, Best Engineering Project, Best Overall Innovation, and so forth. As the announcer went through each category, Mariana squeezed Bernice's hand. Best Environmental Science Project goes to Mariana Brown for her AquaSentry 2.0, 2.0, 2.0, 2.0, the announcer declared, voice ringing through the auditorium. The audience jumped to their feet, cheering wildly. Mariana covered her mouth with her hands, tears slipping down her cheeks. She heard Bernice sob with joy behind her. With shaky steps, Mariana walked to the stage and accepted her trophy, a shining silver figure shaped like a droplet of water. Cameras flashed, capturing the triumphant moment. A hush fell over the crowd as she was handed the microphone to say a few words. Her voice wavered with emotion as she thanked her grandmother, her teachers, her fellow students, and the volunteers who had helped her rebuild. I'm just a girl from the South Side, but I believe when people come together, we can do anything. Thank you for believing in me. Thunderous applause closed her speech. Meanwhile, in the corners of the expo hall, talk was swirling about Officer Roswell. Some of the reporters wanted to approach Mariana for her thoughts on the disciplinary hearing that was due to take place for Roswell. Rumors flew that he might lose his job. Others speculated he would at least be demoted, or that an official apology would be required. Bernice kept a protective arm around Mariana whenever a reporter asked about the officer. Mariana's standard response: I'm focusing on my invention and the positive that came out of this. I hope there's justice, but I'm not letting it define me. That same day, the footage of Roswell smashing Mariana's original device continued to spread virally. It was shared by prominent activists, celebrities, and even a few politicians, many of whom demanded accountability. Hashtags like hashtag Justice for Mariana and hashtag Science Not Stereotypes trended. The Chicago Police Department found itself under the microscope, forced to address issues of racial profiling and excessive force. Public statements were made about retraining officers, reevaluating their approach to policing, and implementing stronger accountability measures. At the heart of this swirling storm, Mariana tried to maintain her composure. She sought to keep her mind on the upcoming White House visit. The day after the expo, she was scheduled to fly to Washington, D.C., accompanied by Bernice and Mr. Stevenson, the school counselor who had helped secure her invite in the first place. The White House Science Fair was an enormous opportunity. She would showcase her invention to President Linda Marcus, arguably one of the most significant audiences any budding scientist could hope for. She wanted to do it justice. A day later, Mariana and her grandmother boarded a plane for Washington, D.C. For Bernice, it was her first time on an aircraft in decades, and the excitement was tempered by the swirl of emotions over what had happened. Mariana gazed out the window, her heart fluttering with equal parts excitement and nerves. In her carry-on, she had AquaSentry 2.0 carefully packed, cushioned by layers of foam. She replayed mental notes of how she would present it, how she would respond to potential questions from the president and other officials. When they arrived in the nation's capital, a driver sent by the National Science Foundation was waiting to escort them to their hotel. The cityscape of D.C., with its iconic monuments and grand federal buildings, felt surreal to Mariana. She had never been this far from home. She clutched Bernice's hand in the back seat, partly to steady herself from her own excitement, and partly to reassure her grandmother, who was equally taken by the grandeur. The next morning, they arrived at the White House gates. Security cleared them after verifying their invitations. Mariana wore a modest navy blue dress and comfortable flats. She'd pinned back her curly hair to keep it out of her face. Bernice walked beside her, dressed in a classy but simple two-piece outfit. Mariana held her invention firmly, noticing how the early sun glinted off the famous white facade of the executive mansion. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. A variety of young inventors filled the corridors, each with their own unique projects. Some had advanced robotics, others had medical breakthroughs or software solutions. The White House staff directed them to the East Room, where tables were arranged for display. Mariana set up her AquaSentry 2.0, triple-checking it was intact from the journey. Then came the moment she had dreamed about. President Linda Marcus entered, flanked by advisors and staff, including well-known scientists who served on the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. A hush fell over the room, then applause erupted. Over the course of an hour, the President walked from table to table, asking each young scientist about their project. Mariana watched with bated breath as the President chatted with a teen who had developed a new type of prosthetic limb. Soon, it would be her turn. When President Marcus finally reached Mariana's station, she extended a warm handshake. "Mariana Brown, I've heard a lot about you," she said, her eyes genuinely curious. "You've been through quite the ordeal, haven't you?" Mariana felt a lump in her throat. She managed a soft smile. "Yes, ma'am, but I'm just grateful to be here. Thank you for the opportunity." The President leaned in to examine the device. Bernice stood to the side, quietly beaming. "Can you tell me about your invention?" the President asked. Mariana launched into an explanation, her voice steady with passion. AquaSentry 2.0 is designed to purify water using accessible, low-cost materials. The idea is to provide a solution for communities that lack clean water. It uses layers of sand, gravel, charcoal, beneficial bacteria, and an electromagnet powered by a small battery pack to draw out metallic impurities. President Marcus nodded, clearly impressed. "That's remarkable. And you say it's low cost? That means it's scalable in parts of the world that really need it." "Yes," Mariana replied. "If we can get support to manufacture it on a larger scale, we can help people in rural areas or in developing countries." The President exchanged glances with her science advisors, who seemed equally captivated. "We'd love to hear more from you in the future," she said. "Are you applying for any grants or partnerships yet?" Mariana shrugged. "I'm still in high school, but I'd love to continue developing it in collaboration with universities or organizations." President Marcus offered her hand again and said, "Well, you just might have those opportunities sooner than you think. You keep shining, Mariana. You're an inspiration." With that, the President and her entourage moved on, leaving Mariana breathless with wonder. Bernice quickly enveloped Mariana in a hug. "You did it, baby," she whispered, tears in her eyes. While Mariana was shining in D.C., back in Chicago, Officer Roswell's hearing took place. Internal Affairs laid out the evidence, the videos, witness statements, and the irreparable harm he had caused. There was talk of him violating departmental policy regarding the handling of suspected items, racial bias, and failing to follow proper investigative protocol. Roswell tried to argue he was acting on an honest suspicion, but the evidence of him physically smashing the box without cause was undeniable. Police Superintendent Angela Cartwright delivered the verdict: immediate termination from the Chicago Police Department. Roswell's police union representative managed to negotiate a hearing for possible reinstatement in the distant future, but the public outcry made it difficult to see any favorable outcome for him. He left the hearing with his head hung low, jobless, and infamous. A local station covered the hearing live, with reporters stating that justice had been served, though opinions varied on whether the punishment was too severe or just right. Many in the community felt relief that, at least in this case, accountability was delivered swiftly, as opposed to the countless times it seemed absent. Across the internet, the story of Mariana's perseverance and Roswell's downfall became a testament to how quickly life could change for both parties. Hard karma, as some called it, had arrived for Roswell. Surprisingly, a few days after Mariana returned home from Washington, she received a message from Roswell. It was short and sent via email. How he got her email, she wasn't sure, but perhaps it was from the police reports that listed her contact information. In it, he stated he was sorry for destroying her project, and he acknowledged his wrongdoing. He blamed a momentary lapse of judgment and deeper biases he hadn't previously confronted. He ended with, "I don't expect your forgiveness, but I wanted you to know how sorry I am." Mariana read it twice, her emotions a swirl of anger and empathy. She shared the note with Bernice, who let out a disbelieving sigh. "Well, that's something, isn't it?" her grandmother said. "At least he's taking responsibility." Mariana considered responding, but she wasn't sure what to say. The note felt like a step, but it didn't erase the pain or the months of hard work she'd lost in those few violent seconds. Yet, she recognized that change could sometimes start with a single acknowledgement of fault. Ultimately, she decided to pen a brief reply. "Thank you for your apology. I hope you learn from this and treat people with more care in the future. Mariana Brown." It wasn't forgiveness, exactly, but it was closure. In the weeks that followed, Mariana's story continued to spread, but it evolved into something more positive than just a tragedy and a cautionary tale. She began receiving invitations from organizations that wanted to help her refine and distribute AquaCentry. A philanthropic group connected to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation reached out, offering scholarship opportunities and grants to further her research. Meanwhile, local politicians invited her to speak at community events about the importance of science education, especially for underrepresented youth. The neighborhood that had once seemed overshadowed by neglect found renewed pride in Mariana's success. Local children saw her as a beacon of possibility, and many wrote letters to her, brimming with hope and admiration. The local library offered a Mariana Brown STEM club, where she and her friends mentored younger students. Demand was so high that they had to add extra sessions. Bernice watched her granddaughter flourish with a smile that rarely left her face. Even in her own corner of the city, she noticed small shifts. People seemed more engaged in community matters. Local businesses pitched in to upgrade the library's computers, and the police precinct vowed to do more outreach and training to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. In one heartwarming moment, at a local block party celebrating the STEM for All initiative, Mariana unveiled an even sleeker version of AquaCentry. Children gathered around as she ran murky water through the filter. Cheers erupted when the water came out clear on the other side. The entire event felt like a testament to unity. And for Mariana, It felt like she had turned a painful experience into fuel for something bigger than herself. She never forgot what it was like to be overshadowed by prejudice, nor did she discount the emotional impact of having her work torn apart. But she also recognized that, in the aftermath, she gained not only resilience, but a network of support that transcended her wildest dreams. Months passed, and Mariana continued her studies with renewed vigor. Her name had become synonymous with perseverance and brilliance. Universities began sending her information packets, wanting her to consider applying when she graduated high school. Scientists emailed her with suggestions to refine aquacentury or to collaborate on future projects. The Chicago Museum of Science and Industry invited her to lead a workshop on DIY water filtration for visiting school groups. She had gone from being a quiet, earnest science prodigy to a young leader in her community, all because of the extremes of adversity and support she'd experienced. Looking back, she could scarcely believe the roller coaster, the moment Officer Roswell destroyed her invention, the heartbreak, the community rally, the White House, the awarding of scholarships, the ultimate accountability that Roswell faced, and now, her blossoming future. One Saturday morning, Mariana and Bernice strolled down Lake Michigan's shore, a place they often went to reflect. The water glistened under the sun, and she couldn't help thinking about how, someday, aquacentury, or a future version of it, might help countless communities around the globe. Bernice squeezed her granddaughter's hand. "See, I always told you that a determined mind and a caring heart could take you places." Mariana smiled, gazing out at the horizon, where water met sky. She thought about all the new opportunities on the horizon and felt a surge of gratitude. "I won't forget where I came from," she whispered to Bernice, "and I'll keep pushing forward." Bernice responded, her eyes brimming with tears of pride. "That's all I can ask for, baby." In that shimmering moment, both of them knew that what began as a near-disastrous confrontation had turned into an odyssey, one that would continue to unfold in ways they could only begin to imagine. Thank you for joining us on this emotional roller coaster of triumph against all odds. Mariana's story is a testament to the power of resilience, community, and unwavering faith in one's gifts. An entire neighborhood stood beside her. A flawed system was forced to reckon with its failings, and a young inventor found the will and the resources to keep her dream alive, even to the point of presenting her work to the President of the United States. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you reflect on the power of unity and standing up for what's right, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue to bring heartfelt, transformative stories to audiences all around the world. Together, let's spread hope, spark change, and celebrate courage.